As I mentioned earlier, Dick said he had a kind of a program on Cinderella's, not enough for a program, but too much for show and tell. I said, well, let's combine it and we'll put some of my stuff together. We made it a two-parter. We did this about a year and a half ago with locals, or not with locals, with the fiscals and things, tax stamps. And I did an intro, then Charlie did some specializing, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So I'll be going through a very brief, half an hour worth of intro, showing a whole variety of different kinds of Cinderella stamps. And let's see what we can do. And then I'll introduce Dick to you. Does it look pretty good? Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, as you can see, we have the Christmas seals on the bottom, a memorial seal on this side, and a German poster stamp, and that's what we're going to look at. But what we're doing tonight, the plan is I'm going to try to define a Cinderella, and if it's possible, for an inclusive definition. And then there is a Cinderella Stamp Club, which is United Kingdom, and they have kind of what they think Cinderella is, and I'll show you some examples of these. The seals, charity stamps, posters, railways, revenues, and all. There's a variety and host of ways to collect Cinderellas, and I'll show you one that recently came to mind. And I think collecting them this way, it could be a nice intro to making a one-page exhibit and perhaps more. And then we'll have some references, print and digital, for you. This will be on the website later tonight, and then and if you want, let me know. I can send you a PDF of tonight's program. Then Dick will be coming on. He'll be doing a closer look at Cinderellas with denominations and what these are, their purpose and prices. They can go from $1 to many hundreds of dollars. And some of the examples, as you'll know, they're Central American Steamship Company, the Suez Canal, Spanish Civil War, Baltimore Carriers stamps, British Railway letter stamps, Rattlesnake Island, local shrub oak, that's Hermanhurst, U.S. Essays, Pony Express, and some others. So we have a lot on the plate for tonight. But the definition, and at least what I'm going to try, from the Stamp Club in Great Britain. It's an association of philatelists, amateur and professional, who have interest in collecting the following: local stamps, telegraph stamps, railways, revenues, fiscals, forgeries, bogus stamps, Christmas TB, Red Cross, other charity stamps, registration labels, advertising and poster stamps. But according to James McKay, you might remember him, he's written a lot of those big, nice philatelic coffee table books. Virtually anything resembling a postage stamp and not issued for postal purposes by a government postal administration. So to me, Cinderellas are like your charity seals and your poster stamps. I leave some of the rest for the back of the book, but that's not for me to decide. The club in the UK is actually an affiliate of the number 91 of the American Philatelic Society. And some of the things that they say are not Cinderellas, according to them, are trade and cigarette cards, and I have a cigarette card to show you, matchbox for cheese labels, aerial propaganda leaflets, I don't know where that comes from, and any other forms of ephemera, such as note geld and script. Note geld is your German, I think, Weimar area of money, and script. We see this in a lot of our Western expansion areas where local people just print their own money for use, and it seems to work. And I also learned there's a difference between a charity seal and a charity label. The charity seals are what we think of when we talk about Christmas seals and Easter seals and those. Charity labels, again, this is from the British side, but that's what we see as our semi-postals. So charity labels actually have a denomination on them and send mail, but it's based on an upgrade in the price with that money going to support that charity. So that was a nice difference that I had not known. This is interesting. I found it from a website. You can see the name of it up there. And from Art Groton, he does a column in magazines now and then. He's also president of the Poster Stamp Society. But if you look on the right and left, you have the Cinderellas, pure philately. And then there's the dotted lines where there's a little bit of overlap. But the way he sees them, like the British, revenue seals, railways, etc. Seals break down into charity events and propaganda events, and wafers. Charlie did one of these on wafers, little seals on the back of envelopes. Bill Schultz talks about the Westtown locals. They're not wafers, but they might fit under this as well. And all the different Red Cross areas. And then the local stamps, which we're familiar with. A lot of those are in the back of the book. But hotel stamps, and even the toy stamps that come out with little toy kits, little, open your own post office type of thing, saving stamps for a variety of different areas. So you can see that it covers a lot of areas. Zemstvo and other areas, that's the Russian locals to get the mail from the local place to the actual where they have the mail routes. And Dick is, I don't know if you have any of those tonight, Dick, but maybe you'd even mention it for a little bit, and college stamps and so forth. Now I'll just start with Christmas seals kind of quickly. You can see the US up here. And this is, I think, one of the only ones where they had booklet stamps. Stanley, you can let me know if there are others. But interesting, this was 1918. And it was kind of the war ended right before Christmas in November of that year. But these were obviously in production well before that time. So I think it's just coincidental. But we learned about the seals in the Philippines, which are like semi-postals, which George has presented. So you can see the value of the stamp plus the surcharge. South Africa had their seals, and like all their other stamps, they have it in Afrikaans and South African English. France has beauties, they're very unique looking. Germany, very elegant in their printing. This is an item 1954 to honor the 50th anniversary of the Tuberculosis Society. These are glue and stick, not Christmas seals, but very interesting ideas. And then just an example of New Zealand. If we go further along the line, we have Denmark, Danish West Indies, and then you have down here Greenland. Then the rest are locals. Lutheran Sanatorium, the Lutheran West Ridge. These are highly collectible. You have the American Ambets, Easter seals. And this I put in here just so you can see it. Kind of a late idea. I found it amongst my collection. And this was the British forces in Egypt between the wars. These I think came out around 1934 and through 1936. And there's a denomination on them. It might have supported the grog for the British Army. I don't know. But in looking them up on eBay, they go for 2 figures. So I was pleased with that. Telegraph stamps were listed with the British Club. You can see we have the Western Unions. Then we have Chile, we have Spain, Postal Telegraph Company, a Rapid Telegraph. To me, this would be a telegraph Cinderella to me, not these, but that's one. And the railroad stamps, these are railroad postal stamps from Belgium. They fill our books. And this one, I didn't even know what it was, except Perpignan, the French company. That was a railroad station that was made famous by Salvador Dali's painting. So that is from their railroad. What it is for, I don't know, but I'd like to know a little bit more about that. These, to me, are the real Cinderellas of telegraphs. Used to promote it different ways, send birthday messages. And I wonder if these came out when the long distance rates and telephone calls started to go down, because this is really a heavy push for sending telegrams. I guess you can still send them. I don't know how they work at all. Some railway stamps, and Dick has some real ones, Great Britain, I think primarily. And this is a railroad one that actually sends a package, and there's a denomination by the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. These two are Danish railway postal labels or stamps, very attractive. This is an interesting set. We were given a donation, and I took it home and looked at it. There's about 400 of these things, and I'm going, oh my goodness. And Because when people donate stuff, if we get something really good, I call them back and, what do you want us to do with them, and but he said, I said, these could, I mean, if these are real, but as I look through them, they're too good to be true. You can see by these, a few of them said on the back, facsimile. I checked with Dick Colberg and the late, great James Boyles, and they were all reproductions from, I guess, the 30s and 40s. But I said I counted about 400 of them. I made copies of them just with my color copier and then cut them out. And that's what these are. And I put them in an album. They're so great. But you can see the local express companies. And Stanley, who's here tonight, has been writing about the local local express companies. And we'll be going in on some articles together. And I think very interesting as you read about the express companies, how they came about and fostered the economy of our country, in the early mid 1800s up till not too late. You can still get yourself an American Express card. As I said in the 80s, don't leave home without it. But you can see a variety of these things, north and south, even during the Civil War.
Many of those things, Paul, are priced.
High priced, you mean?
They are priced.
Yeah. There's a value on them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, denomination. This one has 2 cents.
No, I mean, there's a catalog of pricing.
Okay.
There is a priced catalog. I'll say that.
Price, yeah. And I think, as you told me at the time, the real ones are quite pricey.
Some can be.
Yeah. No, they're really neat. I'm very glad to have this. I was able to. I think I sold the set of the facsimiles for $100, and that went into the club coffers. Like I said, the owner said, "No, it's yours." I always like to check. The Great War in Cinderella's. And you notice this is a cigarette card, which according to the Cinderella Society is not a, Cinderella. It's stiff. It's a cardboard, and many of you know what these are. They slipped in the pack, making them collectibles and a great collecting area in themselves. This was a reproduction in a magazine a few years ago. I just cut them out. When you see these are my perforation scissors. But these were produced, I think it was Good Housekeeping or Ladies' Home Journal during the war as America got in, and they're a great set. This is when, after the war for Germany, and they lost their colonies, they put a series together of the lost colonies, and quite collectible. Switzerland, even though it wasn't in the war, they made sure everybody knew, our army is here. You might be able to run us over, but it's not going to be easy. And so there's a lot of those. They're known for their regimental or unit Cinderellas. Austria, France. These two are France. League against anti-Austro-Germans. This is an interesting one. If you've heard the story in World War I, when the Germans were attacking, the French thought if they could get to them quick enough, they could get their flank, and they did. They brought the soldiers in taxi cabs and buses to the front lines and saved the war. They would have lost Paris, and things would have been very different. A thrift stamp from World War I, American side. You fill these up, and you got enough of these, and then you get a bigger one. Again, very collectible. As we move on to World War II, you can see Switzerland again has their set. Patriotics, there's propaganda. And the other day in the catalog from Dutch Country Auctions, in the Cinderella section, there's a huge collection of stamps for the protection of the Balkan states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, because they couldn't win. The Russians were on one side, the Germans on the other side, and they didn't want any of them there. And it really took till early 90s till they're now their own countries. Marine Corps, Mike Bach has shown a lot of these. They're very collectible. The National Homes VFW fundraising. And for those of you who want to collect these, I recommend this for everyone's library. Our own great Dick Colberg. Dick has a wonderful catalog of these, and Dick, I'll be probably twisting your arm sometime in the future. Maybe you could show us some of yours. Some great, again, propaganda things. would not be very politically correct today, many of them, some of the different racial characteristics of the enemy. But at the time, everybody was on board. Revenues, again, is listed. To me, a whole separate category. Dick Lesher's been with us several times, the latest on the oleomargarine and adulterated issues, our Civil War areas, World War I, between the wars, wines, cigar bands. This is a very beautifully scrolled item, very thin, made, like Charlie's always saying, they make these things so when you open them, that's how you cancel them. But some people would continually try to keep them for collector's purposes. But this image of Andrew Jackson is really, really superb. Other revenues, you can see you have New York State, you have Alabama, Florida. These are Canadian, a bunch of those different kinds. France, this is an old one, I think, from Austria. I got to do a little bit more reading on them. I had some very old French ones I wanted to show, couldn't find them. This is just cut with my perforation scissors from the selvage of the United States small sheet of stamps for the repeal of the Stamp Act. And this was issued during the 2016 New York International Stamp Show. And this was one of the ones that caused real outrage. It didn't go well, so they receded it, but this was stamped onto all the paper, and the Americans didn't want to have to pay for it. Pay for ourselves to, house other people. And an interesting one, I've read about it and couldn't find the research, but it said half your letter postage is a tax. I think it was World War I after we joined in April of 1917. The way they taxed rather than special stamps, they just raised postage. So the postcard stamp went to 2 cents. So that's your half 50%. Your 2 cent letter rate went up to 3 cents, and perhaps some others. That's a very interesting piece of propaganda or anti-propaganda. Mike talked about this, and maybe later, if we get time, we can talk a little bit more about it. But these are ones that I have from the British postal strike in 1971, and even the getting trips to Israel, different areas, different values, collecting area its own. I have little expertise in that. Scouting on stamps and scouting on postage stamps, Cinderellas. Here's your Cinderella here. Here's another Cinderella, very interesting one, the 1907 to 57 50-year Jubilee Jamboree, but it's overprinted 1970. You can see this one is overprinted. Scout and Guide, that'd be the guide or the girl guide, Scout and Guide, Philatelic Expedition, February of 1970. So my problem is, do I keep this with my Scouts? Do I keep it with my Cinderellas? Or do I put it in my stamp show collection? Hard to say. Interesting too, in the 80s, small towns would apply for a permit, and their Boy Scouts were allowed to transport and carry Christmas cards. It was restricted. You can see for 5p, you went to a special mailbox which had the scouting sign on it, and then the Boy Scouts would deliver to the recipient in your town. And I have several varieties of these that I got a lot, and I said, let's see, second sentence. I don't know if that's Boy Scouts or not. It has, yeah, it has the fleur-de-lis here and here, but I don't know about that one. But again, from the Scandinavian area. Anniversaries are a big one, and we're kind of getting into some poster stamps, which I'll eventually get to. But you can see Delaware, 300 years, Rhode Island, Iowa. This is an interesting one down in here, Massachusetts Old Home Week. I think of Old Home Week not as a state, but as a little bit of a town. But they're celebrating 1902 to 1903, and they said July 27th to August 2nd, starting in 1620. So that's a nice piece of history. One from Nebraska, since I was there for a while, but I find that the metallics don't show up well. Germany, they got some dates, 800 years, 700 years for these cities, Munster of Holstein, and then Cobayano. Boston, 1930 from 1630, West New York. And this one, I don't know where it is, has a covered bridge. I'm gonna have to look that one up. When you join the ATA, and Dawn, you might know, do they still give these out when people join? I don't know if they're made or not, but they're great. I was able to get a whole sheet, which I have, and then the one I got at the time, I broke down into individual stamps and I doled them out very, very deliberately, because I think they're a nice item.
We do have 2 sheets, new Cinderellas that we have produced in limited edition the last 2 years.
Okay.
You can see them on the ATA website. They're
Okay.
called Circle of Maecenas.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
They're
Yep.
lovely. They're perforated with an antique perforating machine.
Neat. Yeah. Yeah. I think they're great. I got the one last year. I was hoping they might have one this year too. I think a nice way to start collecting. Rocket Mail. This is from the American Stamp Dealer Association show. They have had several around the country, usually in the New York area, and these are all perforated. And you can see that there is an inversion here. So, but these come out. There's quite a few of them. Fundraising comes close to home. This is getting ready for you can see the move to Bellefonte from State College. And how did these work out? I thought they're for free, but they surely encouraged a donation for them. It has the APS seal. And that would seem to be a very good move when they went to the match factory. Poster stamps, and these are considered in the Cinderella facility. Advertising stamps, usually larger, more colorful, and they were created as miniature posters, which would actually shrink well to present a message. As you saw, those poster stamps for the German cities celebrating their 800-900 years. And they're differentiated for postage stamps as they have no denomination and they don't move the mail. Starting in Europe, mid-19th century, worked their way to the United States. They peaked in World War I and kind of fell out of style, but you still see them now and then, and they're used. I know when a few years I was thinking about them, but I didn't have the expertise to really get them done. But instead of a show cover for Lancopex, that would make up like a souvenir sheet of souvenir Cinderella stamps, but we never got that. But there's, again, propaganda, patriotism. One of the first ones in 1864 was to celebrate Shakespeare's 300th birthday date. And you can see that there's a lot of topics on these: advertising products, celebrating anniversaries, notice of fairs, notice of expos. And that the poster stamp is a term that non-philatelics use as for poster stamp, for Cinderellas. You can see here, these are industry and utility, electrical, gas, more electrical. This is British. I think that's American. But they're very, very nice issues. Wonderful to collect. Sports. I mean, people just, if you're doing Olympics, you match the Olympic Cinderella with the Olympic stamps. Got a lot from Los Angeles. German won water sports weekend. They're advertising it. I got to learn more about it because it's in Berlin and it's in March. The last thing I want to do is water sports in Berlin in March. Yeah. The New Zealand Games, a big one, great stamps. The Olympics in Helsinki, Los Angeles, these guys. Fair for Sports and Games in Frankfurt. I got a couple sheets of flowers. You might remember Bob Brown, stamp dealer up in the Reading area, a little bit to the west, and a regular at our show until he passed away. And he had a contact who had albums and albums of these, and he didn't even know what to do with them. And I went to the Reading Stamp Show, and he was selling them, and they were packed. I spread these out, but he had Cinderellas of all kinds loaded, and that's where many of mine come from. He was just selling at $5 a page. I just took out everything I had and bought what I could. A lot of duplicates, but it formed a big part of my collection. For travel, Railway Express, India, the Hamburg Line, Tasmania, France, Paris. These are facsimiles that I cut out of older travel posters. And as the definition said, they're really large, posters that they designed stamp size to get your attention, to go on letters and advertising when you had an event coming up. These are this all German ones. You can just see the high quality of them. One of the ones that are very well known were the fall, autumn fest and harvest stamps. These guys down here. For all these sellings, different industries, book fairs. There's one for let's see. I don't think I showed this for home furnishings. Yeah, I think this is one for home furnishings. It's a lot of great stuff. This is of all my stuff. My wife doesn't like most of it, but she does like these. Okay, different fairs. These are all French. You can say for Lyon, down here in 1914. I don't know these dates. They might all be for that year, but Orleans, Paris, Marseille, Italy. I love these just because of the colors, the Italian flags. You can see up here the green, red, and white. These are largely World War I, prepare for mobilization areas. Not this one, but a lot of the other ones. Because Italy was one of the later countries to join the war. They kind of wanted to wait and see who they thought the winners were going to be, and then joined in. These are U.S. Well, these are stamp shows, Cinderellas, and I got a bunch from Mike Bach years ago. He found them and said, "I don't need them," and they found their way. But I've been collecting them ever since. Probably my favorite area. These are the international shows. They're from 1913. I don't have all of them here. You'll remember this one, 2016, 2006, 47, 36, 27, 56, 66. Then these are APA shows. Here's the 2026 international show, which will be going in Boston. I've put some notices in and mentioned at meetings if we'd let together a committee and explore if it's something we want to go as a group or rent block rooms or something, make some kind of plans for it. So please don't hesitate to contact me on that. And this is one in Seattle, an international show. I have to learn what that is because it's nothing that I've heard of before. These are international stamp shows. I think my earliest I think this is 1896, but the beautiful, beautiful Cinderellas. This was Great Britain, 1940, celebrating 100 years of penny black. But again, the war was on and things changed. A lot of the British stuff was going to come to the 39 World's Fair at the British Pavilion, but they sent facsimiles because of this, the risk and all, and so they did not send it. You can see just a wide variety of great material internationally. And the Red Cross, I guess they did this as a fundraiser, and Red Cross is a collecting area. I didn't put my Red Cross together, but you'll see that they're scattered throughout some of the items tonight. And Cinderella matching, this is an idea that came as I was putting these together, kind of add zest to your collecting. But the idea is to match your Cinderellas to the actual stamp, if there is one, and put them together. And then from there, add other things, ephemera, covers, cancels, and put them on a page, and you have a beautiful one-page exhibit. Picture postcards where they get it, other ephemeras. And let's look at a few examples, and then I'll be done. You can see here 1962 Christmas stamp and seals, 63 stamp and seal. These here for Dawn, these are the 1915 Pan American Expo. And you can see it wouldn't take much to fill a page with the Cinderellas. This is actually the stamp from the set, but I put it this way, I put it in sideways just for the beautiful clarity, a wonderful strike of the cancel. You can pick it all up for what it was, where it took place, and the year. This was the stub from your ticket. They took your ticket and you got this, and this is just cut out from the Philatelic catalog, and it was the Palace of Fine Arts to match the postcard from that show. So you could do a lot of these with all the different different World's Fairs. The Century of Progress, 1933, the two of the stamps that came out. Another Cinderella. Buffalo, 1901, where McKinley was assassinated. You have a Cinderella and the stamp. A Cinderella, Brussels stamp, Belgian stamp, and United States stamp from the 1958 Belgian World's Fair in Brussels. And then more matching here is your 39 fair. You have an interesting Cinderella that goes with it. So does it go in your World's Fair Cinderellas? Does it go in your Telegram Cinderellas? Hard to say. But along with that, you can see easily that it wasn't too hard to find a stamp from Brazil for the show and Ecuador for the show. An interesting item, International Philatelic Week, which was November of 39. So the show had closed for the year. But on it is the 1939 Expo in California on Treasure Island, and then the one in New York. But adding to it, you can get a date the fair opened, the stamp itself, and the Cinderella. You can't prove that it was tied, but it looks like it was. And after I prepared this, I found a better one that I had. And then using the Jim Boyle's rule, whoever gets stuck doing the show cover gets to pick the topic. So we picked the 80th anniversary of the World's Fair, the invitation of a postcard, some of the poster stamp, and then the stamp itself canceled, the Triathlon and the Paris Fair. Here we go. We have the Golden Gate in Denmark, their pavilion. I gotta look more because I know the New York World's Fair, a lot of where the war started, in the spring of 39, and the war in September of 39, a lot of countries didn't come back the next year. And here's 1940, and Denmark was here, and they were overrun pretty quickly, though they didn't put up a fight, and the resistance wasn't too bad unless you were Jewish, and then they're there. But what I heard is that a lot of the dentists and doctors saved their powdered cocaine, and they put them on the decks of the ships and took the people, put them in there and smuggled them to Sweden. And when the Nazis put the dogs onto the ships to sniff out people, cocaine changed things, and many people got out that way. So just kind of a favorite story of the 64-65 World's Fair. Academic talent that didn't show as well as I would like. Guinea-Bissau, Dubai, and the Enosphere in New York. Again, could make a very nice one-page exhibit. And that is the end of my show. So any questions on any of these before we move on? Okay, I'll stop sharing. Oh, we got a good crowd, 43. Great. What do some of you collect as far as for Cinderellas? Just take a second and.
Hello.
Yeah, Florence.
Yes, I don't know if you are aware of it, but have been an officer and associate publisher of the Seal News, which is the journal of the Christmas Seal and Charity Stamp Society.
Great.
Which follows not just Christmas seals, but many of the ones that you've mentioned. One of your slides, though, you want to make sure that you distinguish semi-postals. Those are postage stamps.
Right, right.
And they have a charity apportionment. Part of the cost of the stamp is going to a charity, but it's still a postage stamp.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I said. You know, I mentioned in the beginning that there's the charity seals and the charity labels. The charity labels are what we call the semi-postals, which has it. Yeah. I think breakfast is an early one.
Christmas seals are probably a primary concern with the Seal News, although there are many, many other seals from other organizations, charity
Okay.
seals mostly. If you're interested, I'll send you a copy
Yeah, I would like that.
if you haven't already gotten one.
No, I'll take a look at that. I
Thank
know there's a catalog too, a Green's catalog for Christmas
Oh,
seal.
yes, right.
Is that still updated and
Pardon
new?
me?
Is that still updated?
Is
Green's catalog.
they're always working on it to
Okay,
keep it updated, right?
good, good.
That'll be listed in the Seal News. You can look it up.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Send me an email with your postal address.
Okay.
You will. And anyone else with Christmas seals, enjoy them. They're all great.
Yeah. Like I said, Stanley's spoken a couple times, and he's going to be getting into. Actually, he's right next to you in our Hollywood squares, but they'll be talking with next year on some of the local Christmas seals. It's a great area.
Yeah,
It's-
those are good.
It's a pleasure to see you, Florence.
Good to see you too, Stanley.
Yep, yep. Okay, what else?
I have a
Something you
question.
like?
I have a question.
Yes.
In Turkey, for example, they had charity stamps that were obligatory at certain times of the year. So when you sent mail, you had to affix one of them. In Berlin, in Germany, they had the same thing. They had small blue stamps that at certain times you had to attach to the mail. So I
Yeah.
wonder whether those are considered more like postage stamps or Cinderellas or in between.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, good. And George, did you say that was true with Cinderellas in the Philippines? Certain time you had to use them.
To write the express companies. What's that?
Yeah. George Hauber,
Yeah.
we can't hear you. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Okay,
A couple of
Philippines.
stamps at certain times of the year, had to be used for
Okay.
mail.
Yeah. So you said Turkey, Berlin, Berlin or Germany or both, or
It was Berlin, I
Berlin.
believe. I've seen them only on Berlin mail. And
Okay.
in Turkey. In Turkey, there are multiple societies that had those, and they had to be used.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you do? Yeah. Okay. Other before we move on? What? Yeah, Rob.
So I have two collections, and I have one example, I think, from each. So for my United States earthquakes collection, I have, I guess it's a Cinderella. It's a stamp that says "Help San Francisco," and it's not a semi-postal, but it does say "Send money" as a
Yeah.
donation for aid to David Forgan, who was a banker in Chicago.
Nice. So
He
yeah,
was
that'd be a Cinderella for fundraising.
Yeah, and
I have one for money for the starving Armenians. There was actually such a thing. Yeah.
yeah. And then maybe somebody can help me on the other one. So it's sort of, I consider it indirectly related to my IGY collection, but I have these 4 stamps that are labeled atomic bombs and World War II with mushroom clouds on a red background, and I guess the Enola Gay flying behind. But I'm not certain. I know that the United States had planned to issue a stamp like that.
Yeah.
That was pulled back because of
Somebody took the idea and just published it in protest.
And
Yeah.
so that I think, is it a privately published
Yeah,
stamp?
Cinderella. Privately,
Okay.
it's a Cinderella.
Yeah, so it's not someplace I've seen that you can get, what are they called? Essays of the US stamp, but this is not that. This is actually a
Yeah,
privately.
it's a little bit different size. It was
Mhm.
supposed to go into the World War II series for the 1945 year, but they talked to the president, who talked them out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, Mike.
Couple comments on the British side. The postal strike of 71 lasted about 6 weeks. There are a plethora of
Yeah.
different stamps issued all around the country for local delivery, and then others were issued for international parcels. It could be a collection in its own right for a
Yeah.
6-week period. I just bought a set from Exeter because I was at college there during the strike, so I got that.
Yeah.
But and then the 1940 Red Cross 140th anniversary of the penny black, 100th anniversary of the penny black, that came in 5 different colors, and
They're beautifully. I have the set.
yeah, they're very
Beautifully
nice.
engraved,
Very
yeah.
nice. And then a promo
Was
for my
the
own.
Red Cross originally, was that an add-on at a later date, you think?
No, well, the Red Cross. No, I think
Not
it
an
was
add-on, but I mean, a later thought to make it a fundraiser or something.
No, I think it was done at the time. I have to check whether mine have the Red Cross on it or not.
Yeah, yeah,
It might have been an overprint
yeah.
of the originals.
Okay.
And then just the promo for my own presentation in October. I'm dealing with internal airmail in England in 1933 and 34, and largely everything I'm showing probably is classified as a Cinderella, although some of them were sanctioned by the post office and they were all used to move mail. So is it a Cinderella if it's sanctioned by the British post office? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of the
It's not
definitions. Anything that isn't, I guess, produced by, but sanctioned by, again, it changes the argument for apples to
Yeah.
oranges. Yeah, very good.
So anyway, that'll be part of my that'll be my presentation in October. It's quite a interesting period in British era philately.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you, folks. And as you have ideas from, we get after Dick's done, we can kind of continue some of this. But I would like to introduce Dick Colberg to you as a member of the Philatelic Society of Lancaster County for many years. But even before that, and to the current time, he's been president of the Lancaster Stamp Collecting Club, just north of us here.
Lebanon.
What's that? Lebanon. And he is the only philatelic appraiser. Is that in the country, Dick?
Yes.
Yeah. So now's the time if you want to get it appraised. He's spoken on appraisals before, and I'm sure he'd help you if you needed anything. But he's been an exhibitor of many different subjects over the years, and he has been with us, and I remember with Dick and Bill Greiner, 2012 National Topical Stamp Show. Remember, we're sitting up there, the three of us sitting up about 10,000 frames, saying, never again, we're getting too old for this. But Dick's been a real player and a participant in all that we've done over the years. So really please join me in welcoming a friend, fellow collector, Dick Colberg, to tonight, who is ready to share his screen.
Cute.
Okay. Everybody hear me? Now you hear.
You're good. You're connected. We can
Okay.
see everything. Mhm.
Okay. Some of this will be a repeat from what Paul said, but at least you get my take on it too. When is a stamp not a stamp? When it's a Cinderella. Cinderella is a term applied to a label that looks like a postage stamp. It's generally assumed to have no governmental postal validity. It's not sanctioned by any government. These definitions are totally mine, however. Cinderellas are not fakes or forgeries. They're not meant to deceive. To be sure, some Cinderellas do pay for the carriage of mail. Local posts are the easiest example of this use. With a wink and a nod, sometimes these stamps, quote unquote, were used. I think there's a fine line between a label and a Cinderella. For me, that line is drawn at whether the item has any value printed on it. That for me indicates that the item is meant to pay postage, whether legal or not. And I call that a Cinderella. No value, it's a label. Again, my definition. Let's see if we can, there we go. I'm gonna get rid of me here. There we go. First is CASS, C-A-S-S. It's a Central American Steamship Company. A few years ago, as I was pouring through a box of miscellaneous stamps in my stamp room, I found 5 of the 6 stamps shown here. These stamps are not Scott listed, though they were mounted on an old Scott album page of some unknown year. Taking a peek at eBay, I found there was a book written about these stamps. For $7, I figured why not? It was written by a guy in Czechoslovakia in quite good English. The book is very well written, contains a wealth of information. I determined that I was missing one stamp, the 2-cent value, the red one. I found one on eBay and bought it to complete the set. The stamps are dated 1886 and seem to have been first noticed in the Philatelic press, the American Philatelist, AP, in 1892. There are 4 values, 1, 2, 10, and 50 centavos. There are also 2 overprints, red and violet, on the 1-cent stamps. There's every reason to believe that the CASS company is totally bogus. The man who brought the stamps to the attention of the AP was a well-known trader by the name of A.W. Dunning. He showed the AP 2 values, the 1 cent and the 2 cents. It was alleged that the 10 cents and the 50 cents value existed. By 1892, the CASS company did not exist, and it was rumored that it had been taken over by the Pacific Mail Steamship Company. In 1886, 6 years before this, the Pacific Mail Steamship Company did exist. A great amount of effort went into trying to figure out what steamship was represented by the design of the stamp. There was no definitive answer was ever found. The stamps are inscribed newspapers, 1 ounce, 2 cents on the left, and letters, 1/2 ounce, 5 cents on the right. It's interesting to note that there is no need for a 1-cent stamp. At the same time, there is a need for 5-cent stamps, but no 5-cent stamps were printed. The presence of a 1-cent stamp is attributed to an error on the part of some unnamed printer in Boston. So the 1-cent stamps are overprinted, good for 5 cents / 5 bueno por 5 / 5 centavos. The overprints are known primarily in red and violet, but shades of these values are known. In 1892, the Scott Stamp and Coin Company was apparently looking for corroboration as to legitimacy of these stamps. Obviously, if they're legitimate, they could sell them and put them in the catalog. They were sent a letter from A.W. Dunning purporting to be a letter sent to him by a C.H. Thomas, explaining the history of the stamps. C.H. Thomas seems to be as shadowy as Dunning. In fact, some suspect that Thomas is an alias for Dunning. There is one cancel that comes close to being accepted as genuine. It's a large oval with Central American Steamship Company on the top of the oval, 1886 at the bottom of the oval, and Saint Blas in the center. In 1892, McKeel's published a picture of an overprinted 1-cent stamp on piece with this large oval cancel. Experts disagree as to whether Saint Blas is a town in Mexico or the name of a boat. My 1922 Scott Catalogue does not list these stamps. Keeping with the ship theme here, we've got the Suez Canal stamps. These had me bummed. I had or have had 2 of these stamps. I turned my stamp room upside down and shaken well and couldn't find them. I have a feeling that I sent them to the APS for their reference collection. So this set of reprints is a recent acquisition. In 1854, French diplomat Ferdinand de Lesseps proposed the building of the Suez Canal. Much like politicians today, de Lesseps was a promoter. He had no technical or financial ability. This is the same guy who made the abortive attempt at building the Panama Canal almost 50 years later. Work was begun on Easter Monday, April 25th, 1859, and after 10 years of work by hundreds of engineers and technicians and tens of thousands of other workers, Egyptian and European, and the removal of almost 74 million cubic meters of earth, it was inaugurated on November 17 to 20 in 1869. The canal is 101 miles long. Over 90 miles of it were excavated. That's a lot of dirt. When work on the canal began, mail service throughout Egypt was scattered. The mail was carried on foot or camel, but they were learning that there was money to be made. Various contracts were entered into for the carriage of mail from and to the canal dig sites. Egyptian postage was used for this purpose. The Suez Canal Company carried the mail for the workers at no extra cost to their workers. Happy workers are those who could send mail and receive mail. They needed the contact with the folks back home. In November 1867, Mr. Gustav Riesch, general manager of the Canal Company's Postal and Telegraphic Services, proposed the introduction of postage stamps, making the free service into a paying one. He estimated the postage stamps would bring in an annual revenue of 23,400 francs. It's about $12,000. Not a small matter in 1867. The suggestion was approved, and lithograph stamps were approved in the denominations of 1 centime black, 5 centimes green, 20 centimes blue, and 40 centimes red. The service began on July 8 and 9, 1868. This new postal service was short-lived, however, because the Egyptian postal authorities got wind of it. Citing their monopoly, sound familiar? They shut down the service on August 15, 1868, after a mere 40 days. There are only 21 genuine covers known. In my research, I found several singles and sets available on eBay, but because of forgeries and reprints, all such stamps must be viewed as suspicious. While putting this program together, I received an auction catalog from France with an apparently good Suez Canal stamp on cover. It is used in period, July 18, 1868, as 10 days into the period of use. It has a certificate and an auction estimate of 26,000 euros for the March 16, 2023 sale. It sold for 28,042 euros. That's almost $31,000. So it's something to ascribe yourself to. This is the Spanish Civil War, which operated between 1936 and 1939. This is a sampling of some of the pro-Franco stamps that are available. Several are available on eBay and with prices all over the map. I have not found anything in print about these stamps and did not find any on cover. I suspect they were used to raise money for the war effort, but beyond that, who knows? Baltimore Carrier stamps. Some of you may know that I collect these stamps. There are some interesting Cinderellas existing with the U.S. carriers and locals, as Paul showed you several. The top two are real, and lost my place here. The top two are real and the bottom two are fakes. These privately printed stamps were not meant to deceive. That's the fake ones on the bottom there. They were printed so that the average collector could buy a stamp and fill a space in his album. H.E. Harris, you all know who he is, was one of the suppliers of these Cinderellas. S. Allen Taylor was another. British Railway stamps, railway letter stamps. There are several privately operated railways in Great Britain. Most print their own letter stamps, and passengers can buy the stamps to put on their letters that are subsequently carried on the train. Some trains are steam, some are gasoline or diesel. Looking through eBay listings, I found that some of these stamps, dating back to 100 years or more, are quite pricey, like 40 to 50 bucks a piece. A few hundred with stamps on cover. I think this is a collecting area that could swallow a lot of cash. There was an auction last year in England of a lifetime collection formed by a British couple. Lots of high prices. It was a one owner sale and quite a thick catalog.
Dick, question on those? With the private train, would they also have to put a British postage on?
Yes.
Okay, so it's dual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Movie train stamps. This from Lynn's in August 1945. The motion picture companies don't use real stamps in making movies anymore, but instead use quote unquote stamps of their own. Those scenes showing a mail train traveling to the right of the label with 3 cents underneath, which look very real even in close-ups in picture taking. Bill O'Hara, who was a tax accountant for a number of studios, thought stamp collectors might be interested in him, so he has produced a quantity in 3 colors, red, blue, and green, and will send a copy to any of our readers who are interested if they enclose a self-addressed envelope and favor him by putting a commemorative on the outside cover. Address him Box 101, Hollywood 28, California. Then from Lynn's, September 1946, 13 months later, friend Bill O'Hara of MGM Studios, who has supplied many of you with the make-believe stamps used on letters in the movies, writes, you might be interested to know that the U.S. Secret Service paid me a visit the other day and confiscated my supply of movie stamps. It seems that one of the recipients tried to mail one to himself, so the post office department declared them counterfeit on the grounds that they too closely resembled the 30-year-old 5-cent parcel post stamp. Of course, I will object to this, but in the meantime, no more movie stamps. And if you remember what that stamp was, it's twice the size of one of these things. So, not sure where I got these. Several years ago, I gave away a set of perf singles. Now, I wish I hadn't done that. I also have one set of imperf singles. Rattlesnake Island Locum Post is a small private 85-acre island in Lake Erie, north of Sandusky, Ohio. It's not too far from the Canadian border. Between 1959 and 1989, the island was owned by Dr. James P. Frackleton, a Cleveland surgeon and owner of Cleveland Stamp and Coin Company, and Robert C. Scholl, a stockbroker. That the Rattlesnake Island local post would be created by a stamp dealer is an easy set of dots to connect. This local post is said to be the only USPS-sanctioned local post in the United States. Frackleton and Scholl sold the island in 1989. Excuse me. 3 issues of local posts are shown here. I've got 3 of them here. There's 1, 2, and 3. Here's the second issue, and then a third issue on cover. The local post was started up again in 2005. And in fact, the agency that issues Rattlesnake Island local postage stamps has had a dealer table at Cass in Cleveland 2 weeks ago. They're still going strong. They were selling stamps like crazy. I wasn't sure they were still existing, but boy, they sure are. And our friend Bill Schultz has published a catalog of these stamps. The NASA local post. This local post is administered by the Space City Cover Society in Houston, Texas. The local post was started after the disastrous Apollo fire that killed astronauts Grissom, White, and Chaffee. Most of the covers are for the first day of issue for the several local post stamps. The stamps are all perforated and issued in sheets. Excuse me, let me get a drink. Excuse me. In sheets of various sizes, quantities of stamps. The one shown here is for the launch of Apollo 16 on April 16, 1972. The stamps are all 5-cent denomination and they have no postal validity. The blue arrow pointing to the stamp. Hang on a second here. Getting dried up here. Here's another local post that I did not know existed. What caught my eye when I found it was that the Chautauqua Lake Local Post. From 1986 to 2022, my wife owned a condo at the Chautauqua Institution in Chautauqua, New York. And it's on Chautauqua Lake. Note the similar spelling. Chautauqua, as the actual entity, is spelled Chautauqua. The only difference is the last letter here. Both of them pronounced Chautauqua, apparently. This one has real spoof quality. The stamps are denominated in Raspufniks. I suspect that the ship name 4 Rolite is a spoof too, but I don't know any details. The lake is large. It's about 15 miles long and quite deep. It's rumored that during World War II, there were several Air Corps training flights in the area. That one plane went down in the lake and was never found. Whether that's true or not, I can't tell. The Old State House Local Post. I was surprised to find this sorting through a bunch of boxes. I obviously sent for this thing, probably from an ad in Lynn's, while still living in Lidditz. I could find nothing on the internet about this one. Meisel's Local Post. This is October 1965. Another surprise in my miscellaneous stuff. This one from October 65 and the following from November 65. Checking the internet, I also found one from Winnebago, Wisconsin in December of 65. This one, let's see, the October one is Bear Creek, Wisconsin. The November one is Shiocton. It's Shiocton, Wisconsin, and the December one is Winnebago, Wisconsin. Not sure the significance of those, but notice that the colors, they just reversed the colors. They swapped the blue for the red. The Shrub Oak Local Post. This one has kind of a cute history to it. I believe this is the brainchild of well-known New York stamp dealer and author Herman Pat Hearst. Begun on May 1st, 1953, 2 different stamps were issued for this local post, about 50 miles north of Manhattan in New York. The first day of use for the dog stamp was September 23rd, 1966. That's happened my 25th birthday. The last day of use was June 1st, 1973. IPSA, the Independent Postal System of America. IPSA was founded on February 14th, 1968 by Thomas Murray in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, for the purpose of delivering second, third, and fourth class mail. During the approximately 8 years of their operation, they used 3 sets of postage stamps. The first issue is shown here. The U.S. government drove them out of business by drowning them in 200 different indictments in federal court. I have all 3 sets in singles and first day covers, as well as the first issue in full sheets. I've never seen one on cover. I put an advertisement in the Oklahoma City paper several years ago, trying to find somebody that had some, because that's where their prime delivery area was. I got nothing. No response whatsoever. U.S. essay stamp. An essay is a trial design. In fact, the French term for try is essay. Early on, the U.S. Post Office Department did not design its own stamps. They advertised for designs from private companies in a competition of sorts. Final designs were either one of the submitted designs or a modification thereof. This practice lasted into the early 20th century. For collectors, there's an essay and proof society. Some can be a bit pricey. This one, Scott Catalogue number 184E5E, catalogs at $30. Essays are found one up on cards as well as in various sizes of panes. This is a single from a larger pane. Test stamps. I was surprised to learn that these stamps date from 1877 and they continue to this day. Their primary purpose is in developing and testing production equipment, including printing presses and stamp and booklet manufacturing equipment. The early stamps can be quite valuable. The stamp shown here from the 1970s is worth about 50 cents, and its Scott Catalogue number is TD 112. One can only wonder how so many of these stamps got into the public domain. This one was given to me and several others who attended a symposium on philately in 1974, sponsored by SMU, Southern Methodist, and the post office in Fort Worth, Texas. The postmaster passed these out to whoever wanted one. Of course, we all did. Pat Hurst was the guest speaker at the first symposium on philately. This symposium was the second of three held in the 3 years, 1973, 74, and 75. Oops. And there's the cover that we got in that second one. Again, showed the test call stamp on it, and canceled by the post office. Duck stamps. Paul talked about them. In the U.S., duck stamps, technically migratory bird hunting permits, are avidly collected. They're not postage stamps and cannot be used for postage. The U.S. also has fishing license stamps. Not very many countries have these. Australia obviously saw a way to make money with the issue shown here. U.S. wildlife artist Dan Smith had a hand in this issue. Who hasn't heard of the Pony Express? Considering the iconic history of this company, it's amazing to consider that they were in business for only 19 months. April 5th, 1860 to October 26, 1861. Originally, the Pony Express operated as a private express company owned by the Central Overland California and Pikes Peak Express Company. That's why they went out of business. You couldn't remember the name. This enterprise was never on firm financial ground and experienced not a few managerial and ownership changes in its short history. The final nail in its proverbial coffin was the immediate success of the transcontinental telegraph. In its short existence, the Pony Express carried 40,000 letters in 19 months. And here we saw some of what Paul had, and I learned something tonight. Postal strikes happen, but not often. I don't know of any other postal strikes generating stamps. This one in Great Britain was the longest in their history, January 20 to March 7, 1971. Apparently, several private local posts sprang up and into action to fill the need. This one has me baffled because of the obvious reference to the United Nations. And the last one, there's a huge quantity of patriotic labels. I wrote a book about them in 2017. There are about 400 in my book, and I know there are many more. These were meant to be placed on wartime mail as a show of patriotic support. These shown are from World War II. Interestingly, in the Philatelic gathering in Westchester this last weekend, John Hawker did a really great presentation of the 6 cent, mostly 6 cent stamped airmail envelopes of the United States. And one of the items he showed had one of my patriotic labels, not my patriotic, but one of these patriotic labels on the cover. And long story short, I sold him a copy of the book. He sent me a scan of the item. So that's the end of what I got. So I'll give this up. And we're back.
Questions for Dick?
Uh,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Florence, yeah.
Thank you, Dick. Your movie train stamps interest me because I'm also connected with the Casey Jones Rail Unit in the
With the what?
association.
Connected with the what?
The Casey Jones Railroad Unit
Okay,
is part of the Topical Association.
gotcha.
I'm interested in learning more about these, and you gave a name and address and I missed it. Can you repeat that for me or send it to
That's
me?
no longer any good because that dated from 1945.
It's all right, I'm just interested.
Oh,
Or news item.
it was.
We like to keep track of current train stamps, but we're also interested in the history of older ones or whatever.
It was an old address, but it was box 101, Hollywood 28, California.
Hollywood, and who was the person?
Bill O'Hara. O apostrophe H-A-R-A.
What is it again?
Bill
Bill,
O'Hara.
H-A-R-A.
O apostrophe H-A-R-A.
O'Hara.
O'Hara.
And his connection to these, was he where you got them?
He was an accountant in the movie industry.
Oh, but he would know something about them then.
Well, yeah,
About the stamps, the movie train stamps.
80 years ago, yeah.
Well, is there a chance I might find information today?
I doubt it.
Oh,
I mean, all that stuff would be gone. I mean, even the address is not good anymore. Nobody uses zone numbers.
no, that's true.
Yeah, that's
If you have a copy of the Lynn's article, you can send her.
1945 address.
I see. All right, well, thank you for showing them anyway. Thank you.
On the subject of railway letter stamps of the British Isles, there's a book by Captain H.T. Jackson, and it's 170 pages. It lists 132 different railways companies that issue letter stamps. And
Yeah,
I'm not a railway letter stamp collector, but it ties into my presentation from the Great Western Railway.
well, like I said in my presentation, it's got to be a sure black hole for money.
Well, no, they were issued for primarily for parcel post.
Yeah, but for collecting them though today.
Today, oh yeah,
Yeah,
they're hard to
black hole
find.
for money. On a vacation several years ago in England, my wife and I rode one of these little trains, but the day we were there, they were out of stamps.
Oh no, which one? There are three or four in England. A couple in North Wales and one in the Nene Valley and one in the North Yorkshire moors.
Dick, I have a question.
Yes.
In England and perhaps other countries I'm not familiar with, England issues stamps that can be used either for postage or for revenue purposes. How do you rate or how do you consider those stamps?
Well, those can be fiscals or postage stamps, either one.
But it says revenue on it. So my
Right.
question, do you consider them equally when used as revenue as a Cinderella?
No. Those are actually valid as a revenue. It's a valid receipt. It was used as a receipt when it was used as a revenue stamp.
Well, aren't all revenue stamps used as a receipt?
Yes. But this stamp, which looks like a postage stamp, could also be put on a revenue document as a receipt. It was in that usage, it was not used as a postage stamp. It was used as a revenue stamp. In other words, they were dual use stamps.
But you consider revenue stamps Cinderellas, correct?
No.
In the presentation earlier, I saw at least two screens that indicated that revenue stamps are
Yeah, let me butt in here. That's Roger. That's what the excitement is with the definition, because revenue stamps, according to the Cinderella Club, are considered Cinderellas. I don't. Dick doesn't. But yeah.
Nor do I. But I was just curious as to.
Yeah.
I actually got really ripped up by a judge at Ballpex one year. I used to exhibit the Queen Victoria issues of Great Britain, 1855 to 1883, and there was a time when some of those stamps could be used for postage or revenue, and one of my stamps had a revenue cancel on it, and the judge was ripping me up one side down the other. He said, "I gave you a low mark because you're lying to us." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "This is a postage stamp exhibit, and you have a revenue stamp. cancellation in your catalog. It didn't make any difference when I explained to him that they could be used for postage or revenue. So it was an absolute legitimate use of the stamp. And
Sure.
I got downgraded in the exhibit because of that.
Yes, I guess the question is, what do people think is the definitive definition? And we really don't have one.
That's true.
Paul,
Yeah,
one thing that might influence this is that in Scott, they list revenue stamps along with postage stamps. So we tend to consider revenue stamps as stamps.
yeah, I always have.
Whereas Stanley Gibbons does not list revenue stamps in their catalogs.
Good point. I guess you're saying is it's the eye of the beholder, huh? Good, thank you.
Depends on what country you live in.
Jim?
Dick, I'm gonna send you, through Paul. This is the brochure for the Old State House, Hartford, Connecticut stamps that they issued in May 19th, 1979. And I was fortunate enough to recently just pick up one of the souvenir sheets that they issued at that occasion. So I'll send you scans of these.
Okay.
So you can have all the breakdown of how much they charged and everything else.
Is that just a one-off, Jim?
Yep. So one of each I got from somebody that was a member of the club that was hosting it.
But I mean, was it just one stamp?
Oh, no, they did singles, plus they did the imperf, and they did, excuse me here.
Multiple years?
No, 1 year.
Just the 1 year.
Right. Mint carriage labels, 10 cents each. Mint sheets of 25, $2.50 each. Single cancel labels, 10 cents. Souvenir sheets, $4.40 each. No, sheets of 4, 40 cents each. Unaddressed first aid covers, $1 each. Unaddressed special covers, 75 cents. Addressed first aid covers or special covers, not available.
What year was that, Jim?
79.
1979, Saturday, May 19th in Hartford, Connecticut. Authorized by the Old State House Association.
Yeah, I'll be glad to get that, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll scan that for you. Feed it through Paul because he's got the whole master list.
Other questions? Other comments on Cinderellas? Yeah.
The British coronation ones stamps, those would be considered just Cinderellas, right? They made a massive amount of them.
I mean, you mean George and the Queen Mum? 36? There's a sheet of Cinderellas for those.
Yeah.
They're like stickers, you know. Yeah, they're Cinderellas. Mm-hmm.
And I see they kept the grayish look to the weather over there.
As usual, yeah. Very good. Well, thank
Although
you.
when I was there, I had extremely sunny weather the whole duration.
Yeah, but it had been better than Germany, right? Okay, good. Well, thank you. Now let's move on to show and tell. And I think the first one to reach me was Ron. So do you want to share your screen with us?
Okay.
Guys, I got another 8 o'clock meeting to go to, so I'm going to leave you. It was good seeing you.
Well, thank you. We'll give you the.
See you next time around.
We'll see you at the next meeting.
You betcha.
Okay, I have some Cinderellas, which are local post stamps. They're from the Colorado Ghost Post, which is a local post created in 1975 as part of the celebration of the 100th anniversary of Colorado statehood. Rusty Morse of Arvada, Colorado, is the Ghostmaster General of the Colorado Ghost Post, which is also known as the United States Postal Service. Now, the denomination of all these stamps is a measure of gold right here, with DWT referring to penny weight of gold. The first Goldstone issue was on June 20th, 1975, which honored Reverend John L. Dyer. The good Reverend held a mail contract in 1864 from South Park to Leadville, Colorado. And because of the weather conditions, he often used cross-country skis to carry the mail. So that's why these say ski mail. The denomination of this label is 0.05 pennyweight of gold, which equaled about 40 cents at the time. On September 30th, 1975, a special excursion called a Paint Expedition traveled from Denver to Washington, D.C. They had a pouch of special covers and a mock petition for statehood to commemorate the centennial of Colorado statehood. The expedition arrived on February 13th, 1976, and met with the vice president, who signed several covers. And this cover shows a label that was issued for the expedition, which was also used on the 2016 cover as a 40th anniversary commemoration. And then this is a first day cover for the Goldstone issue of 1976, which depicts Tommyknockers. And the legend of the Tommyknockers was taken to the Colorado mines by the Cornish. Tommyknockers were mining gnomes that were reported to steal from lunch buckets, cause noise in the mines, and drop rocks on miners. The Coast Post ended on May 3rd, 1978, but in 2016, Rusty Morse revived the Ghost Post for the Rocky Mountain Stamp Show in Denver. The theme of the show was celebrating the ghosts of Colorado. And this cover marked the first day of the show. And the denomination on this stamp of 0.01 penny weight of gold equaled about 63 cents at the time. And for the 2019 Rocky Mountain Stamp Show, the ghosted showed a Zeppelin. And this cover is for the Jefferson Territory Ghost Post stamps of 2019. The label shows a Carreta de la Muerta. It was to issue, the issue was to honor a Latin American contingent that was at the stamp show that year. And a Carreta de la Muerta is a death cart that holds a skeleton and a bow and arrow for ritual parades. And a Carreta is shown on the US 7.6 cent transportation coil, which is called 22.55. And that's, well, I have several more of these, but this is all I have for show and tell. But Paul's talk about Christmas seals reminded me of these that I showed at a presentation at the local Kiwanis Club. These are various Iceland Christmas seals from 1968 to 1977, sponsored by the Reykjavik Kiwanis Club. And they show what may be considered the Icelandic version of Elf on a Shelf. Icelandic tradition has 13 Yule lads, which are depicted on these stamps. And they descend from the mountains one at a time every night, beginning on December 12th, to wreak mischief in the nights leading up to Christmas. All right.
Nice.
And that's all I have.
Ron, were these all ghost towns?
I'm not sure. They probably were, because that's, you know, why they call it a ghost post.
Yeah.
And they're all mining towns in Colorado, so they probably were ghost towns.
Yeah, that's neat. You know, that they're still making, you know,
Yeah.
facsimiles of it and sending them on, keeping the tradition going.
Now, Rusty Morse had an 8-frame exhibit of the ghost post. I think it was at the 2016 Rocky Mountain Show.
Well, thank you. Okay, questions for Ron?